All right, here we got one. This is another, more of a, definitely in the Christian camp.
Oh yeah.
More of a hard rock, not strictly metal, but I will say that one of their hardest rocking songs, Barnabas, is on this album. Little Foxes is the title. Destroy After Use has got a riff that does not quit.
Yep.
It's the best. It's probably my favorite song in their entire catalog, and I have all their stuff. But that song really grabbed me. I love the riff in that.
To me, this was as metal as Barnabas ever got. No, it wasn't thrash, it wasn't speed, it was just straightforward metal, but it definitely still had some of that 70s edge that they were known for, because that's where they came out of, was the 70s.
Yep.
This was actually the last album they put out, and it was almost didn't come out. The band kind of imploded at that time, but they had a contract they had to fill with Light Records, so that's what this album was. I brought
now these are coming out again, reissues, right?
All of them. Retroactive. And I was really blessed to be able to do all the artwork for all of them, and darn proud to do it too.
And I got
a conversation a bit with drummer Chris Klingensmith, and then also Nancy Jo Mann, who is, just a great female vocalist.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I brought this picture along. This is actually one of their pictures from I believe it was 1983.
Yep.
But that look right there, I mean.
Yeah, that's the kind of that was the big look of that year. Like Motley Crue looked like that. It was a metal look.
It was a metal look, but I mean, people always accuse the Christian scene of being behind the times. And, and Barnabas never were. They were always ahead of the trends. I mean, they were a 70s band doing 70s hard rock and metal in the 70s, and by 83 they were doing full-on metal, and they looked like a metal band. Yeah. And a matter of fact, they actually would show up they were playing a lot of churches at the time.
Sure.
Because they were on Light Records. And they show up, and they put their stage clothes on like this, and some of the places they played wouldn't let them play.
Imagine that.
Because they looked like this.
Because that's exactly how Satan dresses.
Yeah.
Did you not know that?
I think Nancy Jo right there looks a little bit like
Leather Tuscadero.
Yep,
she does. It's awesome.
What's her name? Come on, what's her real name?
Susie Quattro.
Susie Quattro. Yeah, she looks a lot.
And it's like, how many friggin' bandanas can you be wearing? Look at all the friggin' bandanas.
I mean, I gotta confess, even I was wearing bandanas wrapped around me back in those days.
It was the early '80s.
But the one I like the best is the fuzzy David Lee Roth leg warmers.
Awesome.
Anyhow, I had to bring this picture along when we chose this one to be in there. I think this is actually the first Barnabas record that made one of our lists.
Yes,
and this is their last album.
Absolutely is.
But I don't even think this is their best album. It is one of their best albums, but Feel the Fire was great.
But it's probably their heaviest. I mean, judging from the 1, 2,
yeah, they were kind of progressive on the other albums. They kind of had a progressive rock sound mixed with the metal. With this album, it's just straightforward.
Yep.
It's all straightforward.
They did some good stuff. I mean, a little spotty in places, but
they also have Sweet for the Souls of Our Enemies, Part 2 on here. Part 1 was on the album before it, and this is Part 2.
Which is pretty cool.
Yep. So, and Brian Blue, shredder, really great guitar player. That's him right there. Or right here, with the makeup on others. Didn't Crew do the same like the next year?
Oh yeah.
That? They had
Mickey Sixx wore the hash marks under his eyes, like the baseball players. Yeah, which is technically it's supposed to cut down on the glare from the sun, but
it makes you look
obviously
cool.
It cut down on the glare of the spotlight for Nicky.
All right.
Of course, Adam and the Ants looked like that long before Motley Crue ever thought about it.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go on to this one because this is a perfect follow-up to that one. This is Bride, Show No Mercy again. 86 is a big year for Pure Metal Records.
Awesome cover, and this would be 86. You see, this is Gustave Doré, who was I believe a French artist in the 1800s-ish.
And this cover was the reason I bought this record.
Gustave Doré has appeared. His work has appeared particularly on doom metal albums, but he did illustrations for Dante's Inferno, Milton's Paradise Lost, the Bible, Don Quixote. He did so many illustrations that brought those literary works to life.
And they were so detailed.
They were awesome. They were detailed.
It was his artwork that I bought this record. Yep. I didn't even listen to it. I just bought it because the cover was cool. And the band, they looked like, an 80s metal band. Yep. So
and another one that's on Pure Metal. Again,
Pure Metal Records, and it's exactly what you're going to get here. Now, Dale Townsend, total screamer, had a unique voice. Reminded me a little bit of more metal Steven Tyler at the time. And he just had that voice where he just screamed and hit those high notes. It was just like, shrill and.
Was this their first album?
This is their first full-length album. Yep. Before this, I believe they were called Matrix.
Okay.
And after this album, they would even get a little heavier. They kind of go more towards.
What's the big one that everyone likes? Snakes in the Playground.
Yeah. Now that was a total departure in sound for them, actually.
Like a Guns N' Roses kind of a thing.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses meets Aerosmith kind of sound, exactly.
Yeah.
But this was more straightforward, heavy metal. Actually, if you would have played it alongside the Messiah Prophet and the Saint, it fits right in with those kind of bands. So
awesome.
Great singer. They're still together, actually. But I mean, it's
but Dale Thompson too.
It's Dale and Troy together.
Okay.
Now Dale's been in a lot of other bands, and he's still the guy's always on Facebook.
He's a painter as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Troy Thompson, his brother, is the guitar player in this band and one of the main writers in the band. And they also had a lead guitar player in this album. I don't think it was Troy, but total shred stuff going on here.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that one. That sounds interesting.
It was a good album, and it's a great album. I love it. So again, Pure Metal Records, like a lot of the Pure Metal stuff, it wasn't hugely popular, especially in a non-Christian scene.
Yeah.
So it's hard to find. So people are always looking for these, trying to find them, and they're not easy to find. So.
Yeah, I'd like to check that one out for sure. All right, we good now? Kind of evened out?
Yeah, close enough.
Okay. All right, so we're going to be getting into some of the bigger titles. This one I was kind of surprised to find out Scott wasn't a huge fan of. I'm not surprised that he's not. It's just that it's because of who it is. Sometimes, some bands can do no wrong, and this is one of those bands for me.
Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite bands. I mean, so I'm sure you can guess who it is just by me saying that.
Yeah, Judas Priest, Turbo. Big hit for the band. I mean, commercially it did pretty well, but
we don't need no parental guidance here.
I have another reason I dig this. This was one of Christopher's first favorites. When I was trying to play him stuff when he was little, I tried to go to the kinder, gentler heavy metal stuff, and this was one of the ones. And he liked that song. Actually, his Private Property was his favorite. Hands off! He loved that. He loved it. So, yeah, I mean, Priest, you could definitely... we're guilty of going into pop territory every now and then. They did it with Point of Entry, although Point of Entry was much more of a pure heavy metal approach, but the songwriting was way more accessible.
They kind of dumbed down their sound from the 70s catalog. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, British Steel to an extent, same idea.
I'm sure you guys, if you saw my recent video, I actually showed that album and said the exact same thing. British Steel, it was just, they dumbed down their sound to get, but it worked for them.
Still a great album.
Yep.
I mean, and Point of Entry, one of my favorite Priest albums. Now this one, definitely the sound is different, and again, we talked about before, nobody was immune to Bon Jovi's long reach into the music scene, and because they kind of changed the commercial viability of music, everybody was kind of going in that direction.
Well, Def Leppard was everybody. Big one in that time.
Yeah,
High and Dry and Hysteria. And
Hysteria wasn't out yet.
No, but it was High and Dry, and everybody was trying to get that.
And Pyromania.
I'm sorry, Pyromania's Mount. Everybody was trying to get that sound.
Yeah, big time. So what we've got here is Priest's more poppy approach with their songwriting. Still metal, but the sound is different. We got guitar synthesizers coming in.
Yep.
But definitely more of a pop-oriented metal album. They've still got the theme, the basic motif of Screaming for Vengeance, which they basically had for these 3 albums. But I will say, one track on this, and this tour that I saw them on, this blew me away. Out in the Cold is my favorite.
That's a good song.
And they used it as the opener on the Fuel for Life tour, and it was an amazing opener, and you never would have really thought of it that way. But the way they had it, the lights came up with that keyboard intro, and Rob comes up on the back stairs singing into the spotlight, and it's just so powerful. I got goosebumps. I love that show.
Rock and roll goosebumps. Yep.
Yeah, so definitely that is the high point on this album. One of the other, Turbo Lover was a big hit, and Locked In was probably, I think it was the first single.
Locked In's okay. I think the synth guitars it took the heaviness away from it.
It did.
Same thing with the Raven. Actually, that's another thing about that Raven record we were talking about earlier. It's got the synth guitars.
Oh, they do. And it was a new sound that was kind of being introduced. It just, people were experimenting with it, and you can't really blame them for it because they're trying to stay current. Nobody stays current better than Rush. If anybody's going to use technology successfully, it's them. I mean, they were able to do that, and sometimes their stuff is really dated because of it, especially like the mid to late 80s
stuff. Yeah.
Because they did. They made the most of the technology of the period, and sometimes it's dated because of it. But I like the album. It's far cry from my favorite Priest. I don't dislike it. This was originally, from what I hear, supposed to be a double. This one and the next album, Ram It Down, originally were a double album.
Right, and the record company shot it down.
And Ram It Down was far heavier than this, although the guitar tone was worse.
Yes.
It was even more processed.
I can't believe it had to be mixed at different times or something, because they don't sound the same to me.
It almost sounds like on that one that he's playing through one of those Rockman boxes that Tom Scholz came up with, which was always such a saturated, processed sound. I hated it. Great songs, but the guitar sound just blah.
Yeah, I just remember when that album came out, I was thinking, and this one, it was like, what are they thinking here? You know, it's like,
and I think a lot of it was just they were trying to keep the money rolling in, and most of the '80s bands were guilty.
You can't blame them, though. I mean, that was their livelihood.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, again, I would rather hear Priest's worst sellout over a lot of bands' best efforts, but
you would rather hear that than Look What the Cat Dragged In?
A little bit.
All right, this is the fourth album for Canadian band Exciter.
If you don't count the EP.
If you don't count the EPs, right? And that's why we keep saying, what album is it? Because there's so many freaking EPs are coming out during this time.
Yeah.
Still the original, well, I mean, what I'm saying.
Two of the original
guys, but it actually is, you still had Alan Johnson on bass. You still had Dan Bueller, but you did not have John Ricci.
I thought Alan was the one who was gone. It was the guitar player.
It was John Ricci who was gone. Okay. So it changed the sound. Still Manic, still speed metal, still Exciter. But it's just...
He looks like he was in the Hooters or something. That is not... He didn't have the look. The new guitar player just kind of looked weird to me.
Yeah. I know. Right. Look at the cover. I mean, they had such cheesy covers, but they were funny. Like their little floating knife cover. And
yeah. Oh, yeah. And just a great band. And fucking heavy as hell.
Yeah. And again...
And trebly... It's like proto-thrash to me.
Oh, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I call both Anvil and Exciter that kind of proto-thrash. This is what I would call speed metal. I mean, this is what I...
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yep.
But neither of those bands actually ever went over the edge into thrash.
Nope, and neither one of them
I think they were really
probably any major success either.
No. Well, a little bit because of the movie.
Yeah.
But definitely not Exciter, but definitely a cool band that I always dug them. This one I don't know. This was I kind of stick to the original band, and I haven't really followed them since.
I mean, I can just read the name of the songs, and you'll know that it's still the same sound. But you can also hear a bit of we're trying for a little more success here
because nobody was immune.
So you got Mission Destroyed, Living Evil, Live Fast, Die Young, Break Down the Walls, Brainstorm. That sounds like Exciter. But then you've got I Hate School Rules.
That's horrible.
So yeah, I mean,
I hate school rules. Damn it! I'm gonna go smoke in the boys' room.
Smoking in the boys' room. The cover is cool though. It's so cheesy. I love it. It's just the rubber mask.
Awesome logo. Always love their logo.
Yep.
Just classic.
Canadian Power Trio. Canadian Power Trio. I was thinking Destruction.
Yeah. And I got a chance actually to meet John Ricci, the guitar player.
Yeah, me too. I got to actually open for them in Albuquerque. Ultimatum opened for Exciter. And
I didn't know that.
So awesome. And John Ricci was the nicest guy, man. Him and Rob Whitlock, bass player for Ultimatum, and I just sat outside the club talking gear and music.
And big music fan. I remember
he's a huge metalhead, man.
Yeah.
He loves his metal. And
when I met him, I think it was right after Violence of Force came out. He was at Record Exchange in Walnut Creek. And we went in, and I think I was a huge Randy Rhoads fan, and so was he. And we got talking about Randy Rhoads, and he wrote a little bit. He signed something for me with talking about Randy Rhoads, and it was just cool. I forget that I met him.
Yeah, I actually got a record signed by him, so anyhow.
Sweet.
I digress.
All right. Well,
how many do you have left? Count real quick.
3.
I have more, so I'm gonna take.
All right, do another one
of these. Yeah. This is one I refuse to take off the list. It didn't make Randy's list, but
because I never heard it.
It's just as good as the album that preceded it. It's
Thunder
just
in the East.
A little more Americanized than the earlier.
Which Thunder in the East was too.
Very, very much. Actually, I think people call it Americanized, but I always thought it kind of had like an Accept sound. Really, it kind of has that Accept chugging and the
a bit.
So, but anyhow, it's just metal. It's just very good, solid metal. And I've always liked the B-side on this one the best. Ashes in the Sky, Black Star Oblivion. It was just so great. The guitar playing, man.
Oh, Let It Go. I remember that. That was the single.
That was a single,
I remember that.
And 1,000 Eyes, I believe, was another single off of it.
I'll have to check this one out.
It's a good album. If you like that sound that they did on that, on Thunder in the East, you're going to like Lightning Strikes. They're really companion records. Very similar sound, but you can tell...
Very similar
approach. Yeah, you can tell everything is very similar to it. I actually like the other cover better than this one. I always like the Japanese.
It's classic.
Yeah.
It's just classic.
But yeah, great record. Ash in the Sky is brilliant. So is Black Star. I just... when I
still got the original lineup here,
when we were doing this thing, I was pulling these records out and listening to them. Yeah, it still is. First thing I did was pull this record out. I'm like, man, I haven't heard this in a while. Plopped on. First thing I did was plop on side 2. I just always liked side 2 the best. It's just so classic to me.
Which is another thing that granted, we're getting back to vinyl in big ways now, but that's something that we lost with the advent of CDs. You lost that side 1, side 2.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, the association with it. I remember when I bought Ted Nugent's Weekend Warriors on CD, and I hadn't heard it in years, because you guys know that I gave up secular music for a while in the 90s, and I bought that album and CD and I'm listening to it. I'm like, man, this is a good album. Then it got to what would have been the second side, and I'm like, man, I love this album. It was like an old friend I hadn't seen in a long time.
One of the other things is, I used to mix, when I was younger, like certain albums, and I can remember a couple in general, I would mix the sides up. Like what I thought was side 1 was actually side 2. And some of them, when they came on CDs, I was like, why is the order all mixed up? Love Gun was like that. I always thought Love Gun side 2 was side 1. I thought the album opened with the title track, but it didn't. I don't know, it was weird. And one of the Kiss solo albums was like that too. I think it was Paul's. Just
Tonight
where
you belong.
So that was just, you lose that kind of side 1, side 2 with CDs.
Yeah, we can definitely get on the sidetrack here.
You know what's funny though? This whole Swans album's not even done yet.
Wow.
It's that long.
All right, so
let's let me do one now, because this one is kind of related to the last one I did.
Yep. Sure is.
All right, so Iron Maiden, 1987, Somewhere in Time. They've got a different look going on here. Granted, they changed a bit with Power Slave, the album before it, but this one even more. They just continued. Eddie's got more of a space age look, science fiction, Blade Runner kind of thing going on. But again, just like Priest, except maybe not to quite the commercial extent.
No, definitely not as commercial, but
we've got those synth guitars going on, and there were some good tracks on here. But I can't say I was a huge fan of this album. I've become more of a fan of it as years have gone on.
Same with me. I didn't when it first came out. Which is the reason it didn't make our top 10, because we tried to keep our top 10 or 15, whatever we're calling it. We tried to keep it to the album that really affected us when they came out.
Big time.
And this one here, when I first heard it, it was like.
It's an odd one. Wasted Years was probably the biggest track on here.
I know people who think this is like their favorite album by them, but if you got to imagine us listening to Killers and Iron Maiden and Number of the Beast, those being the albums that we got into first, and then hearing this was a big departure from that sound.
Huge.
And adding synth guitars was just like, what? This is Maiden.
Yeah, it was. I mean, again, it's definitely still truer to the original sound than
Turbo.
Yeah, but
or Raven.
But it's still. Again, even Maiden was not, they weren't immune to that push towards a certain level of commercialism, or at least a sticking with the times kind of an idea. So definitely cool.
I did like the cover. I still like the cover. There's so much cool stuff in there.
Cover's awesome.
It's one of those albums you can just sit there and look at the cover while you're listening to the record and pick all the different... Especially the back cover, man. There's all kinds of crap in there.
Yeah, it's got a little Icarus down here coming down. It's just, Derek Riggs was famous for putting little hidden gems in his artwork, and he still is.
And he's what a guy, man.
He's not working with him anymore.
He's so cool, Derek Riggs.
Great artist and total style.
Met him twice. Guy's got a memory like nobody I've ever met either. Cause I'm sure the guy meets tons of people, and he actually
remembered you.
Oh yeah. Cool. He was told me, man. He remembered my name. It was just so bizarre. I was like,
awesome.
But we did spend a whole day. We had a table at a booth at a metal merchant. His booth was next to ours, and his wife was there. His wife was funny too. And the two of us were just going back and forth all day long. And so, yeah,
those are always cool moments.
Speaking
as opposed to meeting heroes that are dicks. That's the worst.
Yeah, I've been a few of those too. Speaking of the Shred Masters, the whole. This is David T. Chastain. Now, Chastain was in a multiple of different bands. He was in CJSS.
Was he in Pelletary? Was that related to Chastain somehow, or am I just mixing them up?
Yeah, you're mixing them up. Chastain was the same kind of shredder guitar player. He had instrumental albums under the name David T. Chastain. He did the instrumental thing too.
And he was kind of a Malmsteen kind of player.
Yeah, he could play, but he could write songs too. because he played with CJSS, which was a metal band.
Yep,
great songs.
Remember them?
Fantastic male vocalists. But this band was the most popular of all his bands, with Leather Leone on vocals, and the Leather had that same Joan Jett.
Leather.
Yeah, I mean
Leather Tuscadero.
Yep. You got to be the right age to know who Leather Tuscadero is.
And who was Leather's older sister?
Pinky.
Pinky Tuscadero.
But this is a good album. This is metal, and this is great songwriting. This wasn't... A lot of those shred guys would write... It was just like, write a riff and shred over the song. That was kind of the...
yeah, they could burn up the fretboard like nobody's business, but they weren't composers. They didn't have composition
I don't
skills.
even know if they were trying to be. I think it was just them... let me show off what I can do kind of thing.
Yep.
But this was really solid, heavy metal songwriting. Was this on Shrapnel? I can't even remember. I think this might have been...
Shrapnel was definitely the label of the Guitar Gods.
Yep, this is Shrapnel. 86, Shrapnel Records.
Yeah, McAlpine was on Shrapnel.
Most metalheads who are into the whole 80s, underground or, straightforward heavy metal, the non-commercial stuff, hold this high as a gem. So...
now let's think of all these Guitar God guys that came out of Shrapnel. We had... We had Marty Friedman, Jason Becker, Dave Chastain, Kristen Pelletieri, Tony McAlpine, Vinnie Moore.
Yep, Vinnie Moore.
Blue Saraceno. Remember that guy?
Yep.
Was Guy Man Dude out of Shrapnel too? Remember that guy?
I don't remember now.
All right, let's think of all those guys. Where are they now? I mean, how many of them are still... Marty Friedman's doing his own thing. Obviously had a huge stint with Megadeth.
Yep.
And that solidified him. Now he's doing
Cacophony. He was in Cacophony as well, which is a Shrapnel band.
Right.
With Jason Becker.
Exactly. Jason Becker, we know what happened to him.
He succumbed to ALS.
It was ALS.
Did he die?
No, I think he's still kicking. I think he's making a different kind of music now. I haven't heard any of it, but, kudos to him for sticking with it. But there was a point I was making.
What are these guys doing now, yeah?
The only one that for me, who's really still vital and substantial is Vinnie Moore. He's been playing with UFO now for years, and I saw them live, and I was a bit
skeptical,
very skeptical. It was like, oh, he's one of those shrapnel guys, and this is UFO. He blew me away. He was so good. He not only did he nail the Schenker stuff, no problem.
That's what I was going to say when I saw him.
Oh, no problem. He brought a life to the band that I think they desperately needed.
Yep.
And the band was awesome. They were on fire. And Pete Way wasn't even with them. He couldn't play in America
I heard that,
anymore. But they had this young guy, and but Vinnie just really he wasn't crazy on stage, and he wasn't that type of player. He never was. He was very subdued, and he's a great guitar player, and he just fits.
You don't really need him to do that either with Phil Mogg in the band. Phil commands the stage.
Oh, what a great front man he is. So funny.
How did we get off on the UFO?
Well, because we're talking about Shrapnel guys.
That's right.
And Vinnie Moore being the one, I think, out of that whole group that is still, because he got hooked up with UFO, and UFO is still going strong.
Yep.
Love him.
Okay, next on your list.
We both love this one.
Love
this
it.
Easily could have been in the top 10.
This very much in both of our lists. It was very high in the list. And
this is a band that it took me years to get into, but I always was curious about them. I just never had a chance to pick anything up with Sir Fungo. What a great metal band. Solid from... When did Frost and Fire come out? Was it 80...
It came out right after the Metal Blade compilation, right?
It was like 80 or 81.
Did Frost and Fire come out before Metal Massacre?
After.
Okay, so Metal Massacre was 83? Was it that late?
Maybe.
I think it was 83 because that was when they were. That's when I discovered them was on Metal Massacre. So it might have come out the same year.
Metal Massacre had Hit the Lights On It, which was Metallica's first appearance.
Maybe it was 82.
It may have been 82.
82-ish.
Okay. Anyway,
we're experts.
We're also total experts at going down rabbit trails, so I completely lost it. Okay, this is album number 3 for them, full length number 3. Again, with the Elric themed Michael Whalen cover, which they were famous for, and kudos to them because they're memorable as hell. I would buy the album just for the cover. I wouldn't even listen to it. It was so good. But there were some great cuts on here. They had 100 Miles Per Hour was on here. Chaos Descends.
100 Miles an Hour, which is it's almost a speed metal song.
Yeah, it was. Blood and Iron is on here, great one. Nad Soaker, and a lot of them. Nad Soaker was actually like a Planet of the Thieves in the Michael Moorcock universe. They They went back to the Elric themes a lot because they were huge fans of it and Michael Whalen's representations of it artistically. But some people even call them kind of like a proto-doom band as well.
Yep.
And
because they had that sound at times where they were slow and heavy and churning, but
Tim Baker's vocals
that's
were
what I was going to say.
Very shrill.
He set them apart.
Yes, for sure. Definitely a unique band, definitely a quality band. Love these guys. You can take their whole catalog and you won't be disappointed. It's really
even like the leftover
stuff.
Tracks are great.
Yep, they are good, and they're still together.
Yeah, they actually have the Frost of Fire Festival now.
Yep. Now I will say, guitar player. Damn, I can't remember his name. He did pass away. Jerry Fogel.
Yeah, that's right.
He passed away a few years ago, but it's Tim Baker and Robert Garvin, the drummer, are still in the band, and I think Greg Lindstrom is back with them too, their original second guitar player from the first album. And guitar player, I'm not sure. It might be the guy that was on
I think
Paradise Lost.
Yeah, it might have been.
Is that the one?
Didn't we buy T-shirts from the guitar player?
Yes, because he was in a band called Falcon also.
That's right.
And he was in another band that I can't remember.
But yeah, I remember buying a long sleeve
and he was real personable about it.
Yeah.
He sent it to us along with a bunch of pics and a letter, and so it was pretty cool.
I think he was kind of explaining it was an email then. It wasn't even like any of that kind of messenger stuff.
Yeah, and I think he hand wrote a letter to me as well.
Yep. Yeah, he did to me too. But I remember him saying that he recently thought all the fans forgot who these guys even were. So he was shocked when people were actually buying the shirts from him.
Yep. Great stuff. It's just one of those bands that kind of slipped through the cracks originally. Like I said, I always saw them and I was really interested in the covers and the name, but I never got a chance to hear them. And then I rediscovered through the Metal Massacre comp their track "Death of the Sun," and I was just like hooked. I was like, "That is a killer track."
Yep, that's
Zero-Thumb-Go.
That's how I discovered it too. But that was actually the first album I bought by them. I didn't get to.
Was it?
Yep. Or was it? That's their second or third?
Third.
That's their third. So it was their second album. That
King of the Dead.
King of the Dead. Yep. Which is another great.
Oh, awesome.
This album that was actually nowhere near as high in the list as it actually is now. Somehow just.
Oh, it just kind of slipped through.
It doesn't matter. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of work.
And I don't know these guys at all.
This is a metal massacre band. These guys were. I put them along with if they were on stage. I'm trying to think of who else they sound like. They kind of had that over the top look. You could have put them on the stage with Wasp or those kind of bands, and they would have fit perfectly. Look at that. Look at that. The makeup and the shredded leather. But it wasn't the glam look. It was the shock rock. It was the shock rock or the anti-glam look.
Yeah.
Like early Twisted Sister was that way. They weren't trying to be a glam band. They were trying to be.
Or like Impaler was a good one.
Impaler, exactly. That's what you get here. But these guys sound just pure heavy metal. Now, the song "Rent and Heat" was probably the one most people have heard. It was on I think it was on a Metal Massacre soundtrack. That's kind of where I discovered them from. But I was in college when this came out, and these guys played at a club out there, and I remember I didn't have the money to go, which sucked, so I never got to see them. But a bunch of my roommates went, and I've just been a fan of this album ever since. It's pedestrian heavy metal with a bit of a shock rock sound to it. Yep.
Cool name. Crank.
Yep.
Are they talking about drugs or are they talking about their cock? I don't know.
There's this one song on here I never could figure it out, but it says "Don't F ... with me," so I don't know what that could mean.
Probably "Don't Flip with Me." I think they had a big gymnastic following for some reason. Probably "Don't Flip with Me," or "Don't Fart with Me."
Maybe. Don't fall with me.
We're so dumb. All right. Okay, this is a great album. This is a great album. This was really anticipated because I was hearing a lot about it before it came out, and what it was supposed to be called isn't what it ended up being called. Ultimate Sin. Originally, I think it was going to be called Killer Giants, and it was going to have a Jack and the Beanstalk theme, which that track is still on here, Killer of Giants, but it's got more of a nuclear war theme, which was a very popular thing at this time. It was still the Cold War was still in full swing, and it was still a very real possibility that we would destroy each other with nuclear weapons. So that was Ozzy's made up as a dragon in this one. Cool metal painting cover that's just as good as anything at the time. Jakey Lee's second album with Ozzy, and it's heavy, super heavy. great one. The big hit off this was, Shot in the Dark. That was a huge hit. Yep. Still love it. But
didn't even Ozzy though on this tour? Didn't he kind of start looking more
like a housewife?
Yeah.
Oh, but he was very glammy. Yes,
yeah,
he got very glammy. He had the frosted permed hair, and he was wearing a lot of sequins, and definitely not the Prince of Darkness thing. But yeah, even Oz was affected by the whole hyper-commercialism of the hair metal movement and that whole thing. Not sound-wise, definitely not sound-wise. It's a pretty heavy album. Jake's guitar tone on here is great. Just some really heavy riffs in here. I don't know what else to say. It's a great companion to Bark at the Moon.
Yep.
I think. And still
was it Jake's last album?
Yep, I think so. He was done after this one. Randy Castillo was the bass player on here, and... No, wait. Randy Castillo was the drummer. The bass player was... Damn, I can't remember. Because Greg Chason was actually the bass player for Badlands, auditioned for Ozzy at this point, because him and Jake are friends.
We had another Randy Castillo album in the mix that didn't make our list. Dr. Mastermind, Randy Castillo played on that too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was on our list that unfortunately got the chop.
Who was the bass player? Oh, Phil Sousson. Philip Sousson was the bass player. So, Greg Chason was in the running to be the bass player on this, and actually can still be heard. He did have some writing input that he wasn't credited for, and that's only because I've talked to him and know him about it, and that's all.
I've heard that a lot about some of the Ozzy solo stuff.
Yeah. And as time goes on, he's just as bad as Kiss. They took a lot and didn't credit a lot, and kind of screwed people over financially and artistically. But hey, that's none of my business.
Alright, this one was pretty high on my list.
You know what we didn't do?
Oh, you still have some more. That's good.
Totally forgot about these.
That's all right. They were towards the top anyhow. So you still have 3. I still have 3. We're good to go.
Oh, perfect.
This one was really high on the top of my list because I saw this band live on this tour at a small club when I was going to college. This is Helstar, Remnants of War. Second album for Helstar.
Was this the guy who changed his name from one that sounded cool
yes.
to one that sounded not so cool?
Well, just back to his original name, which is James Rivera.
Which is a much better name. What was the name he used before? It was something stupid.
Yeah, it was more goofy English sounding, I guess it was. But
James Rivera was way... Anyway, go.
But
I get caught on stupid little details.
Oh my gosh! It was funny thing was there was 2 bands. There was a headlining band, TT Quick.
Oh yeah.
And these guys were opening. The club was packed for Helstar, and it was a manic show. I mean, you just hair flying everywhere. Everybody was headbanging. It was a great show, and this is a great album. It's not speed metal. It's not thrash. It's just heavy metal, but it's...
Is it that power metal kind of thing?
American power metal.
Yeah.
I mean, you think power metal, you kind of think of Dungeons and Dragons and the keyboard.
Well, yeah, and that's
this
later.
Is 80s
the European
power metal. This is
what they call flower power metal.
Like Metal Church. This is before all the fart names.
Silent Wind.
But I mean, even the record company, with this Combat, really must have believed in this record as well, because look how much money they put into the cover art. I mean, they haven't have a...
Is it foil?
It's foil.
Oh, cool.
It's silver foil.
What am I looking at, though? What is it?
It's like a tombstone.
Oh, all right.
The Hellstone's on. Yeah, Helstar's on there. Remnants of War. Great record. James Rivera, one of my favorite vocalists. Just over the top, soaring. To me, he's Rob Halford meets Dio in his sound. That's kind of the voice style he has.
Bad mix.
And he's played with a lot of different bands. So.
But Helstar was his main.
Helstar was his main band, and Helstar continues on this day. Awesome album.
Sweet.
Awesome album.
And that's a good segue into this one, because you mentioned TT Quick. Right?
Yep.
All right, so...